Have you ever felt like someone or something is watching you? A couple hiking in the woods unknowingly steps onto a crime scene. A woman hears whispers in her sleep, only to discover she isn't alone. A child vanishes without a trace, only to reappear with a chilling story of a friendly stranger. These aren't just campfire tales. They really happened. And after you hear them, you'll never look at the world the same way again. Back in the 1970s, a young couple set off for a late-night hike deep in the forest. A few minutes into their walk, an eerie sensation crept over the man, an inexplicable feeling that something was off. He mentioned it to his girlfriend, but they brushed it aside and continued on. Suddenly, he stepped on something soft, almost lifelike. Before he could glance down to see what it was, the nearby bushes erupted with rustling noises. Without hesitation, they turned and ran for their lives. Years passed, and one evening, the couple tuned into a televised interview with a notorious criminal on death row. The interviewer posed a chilling question. Was there ever a time you were nearly caught in the act? The convict's response sent shivers down their spines. Once in the woods, he admitted. A couple walked right through the scene. The man even stepped on the body of a girl I had just unalived. I was hiding in the bushes, only feet away. That night, they had unknowingly crossed paths with one of history's most infamous criminals, Ted Bundy. In 2013, a woman who lived by herself kept waking up to an unusual clicking sound in her bedroom. Determined to find the source, she purchased an audio recorder and began recording her sleep. For weeks, all she captured were typical nighttime noises until one morning. As she listened back, she heard herself sleep-talking. But then, an unfamiliar voice responded. Chillingly, experts later verified the recording's authenticity, ruling out the possibility that she could have made the second voice herself. In 2018, a woman named Alexa returned to her apartment only to find her landlord standing in her kitchen. She screamed, demanding an explanation. Smiling eerily, he simply said, "Just checking in on you." Then he walked away. Shaken, she spent the evening in a friend's apartment down the hall, only returning home late at night. As she lay in bed, drifting off, her Amazon Alexa suddenly spoke. "I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you say, 'I'm watching you'?" Panic surged through her. She bolted upright, turned on the lights, and scanned the room. Empty. Trying to calm herself, she unplugged Alexa, ready to sleep. But before she could, she heard a deep, guttural sound. A man's grunting, coming from inside her closet. Then Alexa turned itself back on. In the winter of 2018, a man living alone in the mountains awoke one morning to find a red ball resting in his front yard. Assuming it belonged to a neighbor's child, he kicked it over the fence and forgot about it. That night, he woke to the distant sound of children laughing. Looking outside, he saw nothing, except that the red ball was back in his yard. Confused but unfazed, he picked it up, brought it inside, and went back to bed. The next morning, he paid his neighbor a visit, planning to mention their kids playing in his yard. But the neighbor, a reclusive old man, had no children. In fact, no children lived anywhere nearby. That night, the laughter returned. Glancing outside, he saw no one, but the ball had reappeared once more. Panicked, he sprinted downstairs to check on the one he had brought inside earlier, only to find it was gone. His doors were locked, his windows shut. Then, in the distance, he noticed a figure standing still, watching him. A 16-year-old girl was home with her mother when she received a disturbing text from a boy she had recently met on Snapchat. "I'm outside your house." Cautiously, she peeked outside. Nothing. Assuming it was a prank, she ignored it. Later that night, as she got ready for bed, another message came. "I'm in your house." Terrified, she rushed to show her mom, who immediately turned on every light and searched the entire home. No sign of anyone. Relieved but shaken, they returned to bed. The next morning, the girl woke up and sensed something was off in her room. She glanced around, then noticed her shoeboxes, normally lined up perfectly, were slightly out of place. As she knelt to fix them, her heart nearly stopped. From the corner of her eye, she saw it. a pair of eyes staring back at her from under the bed. It was him. In 2008, a teenager decided to film himself playing a paranormal ritual known as the Midnight Game. The rules? Walk around your house from midnight to 3:33 a.m. without stopping. If you stop moving, the Midnight Man will get you. Around 2 a.m., he heard a noise in the kitchen. Probably just my imagination, he told himself, but he checked anyway. Finding nothing unusual, he turned to leave, only to realize the front door was wide open. As he reached out to shut it, an unseen force pushed back from the other side. Panicked, he sprinted upstairs and slammed the door to his room. He sat there, recording, barely breathing. Then, suddenly, his bedroom door opened on its own. In the early 2000s, a young girl stood outside her friend's house, peeling bark from a tree, when a strange man approached. He had an eerie, wide grin, and his face was pale as a ghost. Without a word, he reached out and pinched her arm. Then, in a voice devoid of emotion, he whispered, "How would you like it if I peeled your skin off?" Before she could scream, her friend's mother yelled for her to come inside. The man walked away. Years later, she learned the horrifying truth. Her friend's mother had called the police that day, and officers found the man's van filled with dozens of photos of the girl. But that wasn't the worst part. Inside his storage unit, they discovered something straight out of a nightmare. A metal chair with arm and leg restraints, a medical anatomy book, and hundreds of tools. That day, she had escaped a fate worse than death. In 2017, two teenagers found themselves stuck inside their school bathroom when an unexpected lockdown was announced. Instead of following protocol, they decided to sneak out and explore the eerily silent hallways. As they stepped into the dimly lit corridor, they froze. A towering figure stood just ahead, blocking the path to their classroom. His appearance was unsettling. His clothes were ragged, his posture unnatural, and he was definitely neither a teacher nor a student. Then, without warning, he began moving toward them. Panicked, they retreated into the bathroom, locking themselves inside the last stall. Moments later, the heavy door creaked open. Footsteps echoed against the tile floor, followed by the sound of stalls slamming open, one by one. Realizing they had seconds before he reached them, they dropped to the floor and crawled to the opposite end of the room. Just as they reached the exit, they dared to look back. He was holding a weapon. They ran for their lives. Though they escaped unharmed, the police never found the intruder. Who he was and how he got inside remain a mystery to this day. In 2014, a couple came home to a nightmare. Their belongings were in disarray, lotion smeared on doorknobs, their shoes mysteriously ruined, and a can of paint dumped all over their bathroom. Baffled, they called the police. After searching the home, officers found no sign of forced entry and dismissed it as an act of vandalism. Believing the danger had passed, the couple tried to put the strange incident behind them. That night, however, an unsettling noise came from beneath their bed. It was a mix of scratching and what sounded like soft whimpering. Terrified, they fled the house and called 911. When officers arrived and checked beneath the bed, they discovered something horrifying. A frail woman, barely 90 pounds, clutching a massive butcher knife and a hypodermic needle. As she was led away in handcuffs, an officer turned to the couple and said, "She was high on a illegal substance. For the past 2 hours, she had been carving a hole in your mattress to get to you." A 9-year-old boy had a secret routine. Every night after his parents went to sleep, he would sneak downstairs to grab snacks from the kitchen. One night, as he tiptoed toward the fridge, he stopped. Someone was already there. A thin, disheveled man stood with his back turned, drinking straight from a milk carton. The boy gasped, turned, and sprinted upstairs. He woke his parents, who rushed to check, only to find an empty kitchen. Nothing was out of place. His parents dismissed it as a nightmare, but the boy knew what he had seen. For the next few days, an eerie feeling followed him everywhere. Then, one night, while lying in bed, he noticed something unusual about the vent on his ceiling. 2 motionless eyes stared back at him. He screamed. His parents searched the house but, again, found nothing. Weeks later, a foul stench began seeping from the vent. When they finally opened it up, They found the intruder, his lifeless body curled up inside the ductwork. He had been living inside their walls. In 2015, a young woman was at her breaking point. The neighbors next door had been making unbearable noise for weeks, and she finally decided to confront them. Knocking on their door, she was met with an unsettling sight. An elderly woman with wide, unblinking eyes. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just hissed at her. Disturbed, the woman backed away and returned to her apartment. Though shaken, she decided against calling the police. That night, she woke up to the sound of hissing. At first, she assumed it was a nightmare, but then she noticed a heavy shape under her blanket, right next to her. Heart pounding, she reached out, and the lump moved. Before she could react, her neighbor sprang up from beneath the covers and bolted into her closet. In 2013, an offshore accident led to tragedy when a rogue wave capsized a tugboat, sending it plunging into the ocean's depths. 11 of the 12 men on board perished instantly. The lone survivor, trapped in the sinking wreckage, was thrown into a flooding corridor. Panicked, he swam through the engulfing darkness, desperately searching for an escape. Instead, he stumbled into an engine room, where a lone air pocket had formed. There he remained, alone, 100 feet underwater. For 3 days, his only company, the haunting sounds of sharks ripping apart the remains of his crew just beyond the walls. When a recovery team finally arrived, divers combing the wreck spotted something unexpected. A human hand reaching toward them. At first, they assumed it was another corpse. Then, it grabbed them back. Some say these stories sound like urban legends, but many are based on real events. The next time you sense something watching you, hear an unexplained noise, or feel uneasy for no reason, don't ignore it. You never know what's lurking just out of sight. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't fiction, they're real. People go missing. Strangers lurk in the shadows. And the things we dismiss as imagination, they might be watching us right now. If you enjoyed these terrifying real-life encounters, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, there are even darker stories waiting to be told. Stay safe out there.